Hi, I'm Christopher McClinton. Welcome to another episode of Extensible Podcast. This should be a fun one. Finxact is very much in passport mode. We have since becoming a part of Fiserv, thanks to Fiserv's global scale and reach, have just some really exciting opportunities around the globe. And today, I'm very pleased to have two of our leaders, Sathish Mohan, who heads up our India operations, and Rene Salazar, who is head of banking services for Fiserv for Latin America. Thanks, both of you, for joining us.
Thanks, Chris, for having us.
You bet. Maybe I always just like to begin with a quick introduction, if you don't mind. Tell us, Satish, perhaps beginning with you. What's got you here? What have you been doing at Fiserv? And what's next?
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Chris. Extensible is a great podcast, and I'm here with Rene to join and discuss about our international operations. Fantastic to be here. Uh, I've been with the co-banking system for over 25 years. I've been part of the team which built the Gen 2 platform, which became successful out of Citi and went public and got acquired by Oracle later, which is doing pretty well. I know the journey, how it goes through. And it's great to be part of Finxact now. It's been a year and a half with Finxact, and I'm based out of Bangalore, out of the Fiserv office. Finxact India Development Center, FIDZ, is the next office that we have outside Jacksonville in Bangalore. And Bangalore being the great hub for all the new age stuff that happens out of the tech shops in India. It's called the Silicon Valley of India. It's a great place for Finxact to be part of this ecosystem.
Fantastic. Rene?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Thank you for inviting us, and definitely very, very excited for participating in this podcast. I'm Rene Salazar. I'm responsible for the banking solutions that are offered in the Latin American region, everything that goes from core, digital, anti-money laundering, and other solutions that Fiserv has been promoting in a region for already 40 years. I've been part of Fiserv for the last 15 years, and I'm very proud of what Fiserv can offer outside the US, and definitely very excited about now promoting Finxact as well.
Thanks for being here, Rene. Well, let's jump over to Bangalore. Satish, maybe just take a minute and tell us about how the build out has been going there. I know it's been fast and furious, a lot of exciting stuff going on, but what's perhaps been the progress to date?
Absolutely, Chris. For Fiserv, India is not new. Fiserv has been in India for many years, and it was a logical extension for us to put our India development shop out of Bangalore, which is one of the 4 cities where Fiserv operates in India. We've got about 9,000 people of the 42,000 odd people out of Fiserv operating out of India. Pretty much, it's like a microcosm of Fiserv. Every product has a representation. In Bangalore, the reason why we picked Bangalore for Finxact was it's kind of a hub where the maximum number of startups are there, the biggest investments happen, the largest product shops like the likes of Adobe, Google, Microsoft R&D, Gojek from Asia. You name the top companies, JPMC, Wells Fargo, they all have their tech shops here. So it's a great market to have our Finxact offering here, which is where some of the cutting edge technology work happens out of India. Finxact India Development Center has been brought in to kind of support the growth phase that we're getting into as an organization. We've been in the stages of where the innovators and early adopters have been picking us up in the US. And incidentally, Next Gen Core is a global phenomena. And for us to be, aware of what's happening across the world and the kind of adoption that are happening in markets like APAC, EMEA are going to be great inputs for the product. So we've been having a great time so far. It's just been about 16, 17 months, but then the amount of interactions and activities that we've been having here is tremendous, which I'm going to speak to you about in this podcast. I look forward to that.
And I guess you could say, just sort of in the short term, in the near term, if you will, what is this strategy anticipated to enable? And then maybe perhaps a little bit more long term?
Sure. There are 2 key elements that I take as part of my role here in Finxact India Development Center. One is to kind of support the growth phase for Finxact across product, engineering, consulting, and new market rollouts. As part of the new market rollouts, which is the second strategy, the focus is largely about Asia Pacific as a market and to also look at EMEA. The focus there in the international market is to how do we enable sales team? How do we get them aware of Finxact? because it's a completely different level of transformation. While Fiserv, we have quite a number of core systems. The way in which you need to start introducing a platform like Finxact is going to be very different proposition. How do we help the sales and the large support organization which is reaching out to this market? How do we enable them? How do we educate them? How do we handhold them on these initiatives that we are looking for, which are happening as we speak at scale in this part of the world? That's the important part that we're working on.
That's really exciting. Rene, well, similar as Satish said, Fiserv is not a newcomer to Asia Pacific and certainly not a newcomer to Latin America. Maybe take a minute to tell us about that rich history that Fiserv has and the different types of solutions and segments that you're helping there.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Fiserv has been present in Latin America for the last 40 years, I would say. And we serve a vast client base of different type of financial institutions, including private, public, specialized lenders. And also we provide solutions for other segments of the market around the financial services as well. So we serve banks, we serve credit card processors, or even financial institutions processing their credit card and debit card business with us. But also we have a very strong merchant solutions business in the region. It's different by geography. Obviously, we are stronger in some of the markets with some of the verticals, if I can call them this way. And you will see a Fiserv that provides solutions around payments and around core and digital and cards all over the region, right? And I'm talking about 3 big geographies. Latin America is comprised of Latin American North, which is Mexico, Central America, the Caribbean, countries like Colombia, for example. Then we also have the South with Argentina, Uruguay, Chile, Peru, and Brazil, which is so big that obviously we manage it separately. So different type of businesses around financial services, around payments, but definitely we have a great franchise of Fiserv in this region.
Yeah, it's a tremendous becoming a tremendous advantage for Finxact as well, for the same reason that we're able to not begin from a standing start in India, Bangalore. We're off to the races in Latin America thanks to Fiserv being so well established there. How do you see Finxact coming into and complementing the things that you're already doing there? And I might add, because your comment made me think about something that Frank Bisignano often says, which is Fiserv has unmatched assets. And I think you just did a nice job of sort of describing how that's vividly on display in Latin America, whether it's for merchant, whether it's for card, payments, digital banking. But I think there's opportunity for Finxact to come in and complement more than one of those areas. But how do you see that working?
Yeah, no, definitely. Let me start first from the banking solutions or the traditional financial type of solutions vertical. We currently have around 30 clients using our core banking solutions, our digital banking solutions, and others. And some of them are interested on obviously maintaining and modernizing that core banking asset they have. But at the same time, there's always opportunities to discuss about how to accelerate and provide other services, how to launch new digital products to the market. But the largest or the biggest opportunity that I see in Latin America is we're not present in every market. And there's specific markets in which the acceleration and the explosion, the need for digital products are definitely a great opportunity for Fiserv and for Finxact. I'm talking about, for example, markets like Brazil, right? In which there are very big traditional banks, but also in which we have seen offerings like the ones of like Nubank, launching 10 years ago, just a digital bank. Nowadays, even having more than 100 million accounts over the market between Brazil, Mexico, and Colombia, right? So this need of really moving faster and launching new products and services through different market segments, different type of offerings, is definitely very attractive for Fiserv and for the market to definitely be able to leverage something like Finxact, again, Brazil, or very big banks in Colombia or in Mexico, or even digital banks and fintechs looking to accelerate their presence and start competing against the traditional banks. And that's from one of the verticals. But if you think about issuers or, our clients that are mainly focused on credit cards, and now they also want to start offering other type of products and services to their market segments. Definitely Finxact could be a very interesting offering, even for, now retailers and other type of players, non-traditional financial institutions trying to offering financial services, leveraging these concepts of embedded finance or buy now, pay later. All those offerings definitely are very interesting as a possibility for Finxact to play in.
Certainly. Satish, when we're thinking about, for a moment, the landscape in the United States as it pertains to just sort of the state of banking, and what next generation platforms are changing, what they're making possible. We've said many times that there's a few things that are just table stakes just to be in that category. It has to be real time. It has to be open and API first, and it has to be cloud native. But then Finxact has done quite a bit more than that. I'm not going to go into all the things, but my question is, those attributes are really conferring significant competitive advantages for the banks that are able to adopt them and wield them. Is that translating similarly to the Asia Pacific region for the things that they're trying to do there in the banking sector, or the fintech sector for that matter?
I mean, interestingly, if you look at it, Chris, if you look at the top 100 banks in S&P, 43 of them come from Asia Pacific region. This is as of the recent data. The next 35 is out of Europe. And in Middle East Africa, you have one, which is so 89 of the top 100 banks are between APAC, EMEA, which is a large representation. And the fact that the whole shift from, the monolithic Gen 2 or Gen 1 kind of a platform to a composable microservice, cloud native, real-time platform is a global phenomenon. Everybody have to solve this problem. Finxact has been great in solving this at scale in the US market. And the fact that we have proven the product to have it in production is a great validation for us to take to these new market. The whole aspect of composability that's being introduced in globally around the markets are to break down into system of record, into system of engagement, and the system of insights. And we play at the system of records level, and the market is completely aware of it. We've been privy to some of the RFPs and RFI that are happening in this part of the world. And if you have seen some of them, they are really advanced in the way in which they have been looking at the technology strategy for the next 5 to 10 years. So the transformations are happening global. With a fair share of the large banks operating out of this part of the world, you see those kind of initiatives being taken in real shape and form. In fact, if you look at number of next-gen codes that have been sold globally, if you take the statistics, it is predominantly the highest number has been happening out of Asia Pacific and Asia Pacific region, which is a good sign for us. And we being party to it, we being participative to it, is giving us a lot of great information to validate. And the best part is there are certain really advanced progress that we have made with some of those transformation initiatives that have been kicked off. We will soon be talking about it in the near time frame, but we have progressed really well. And that shows the readiness of our platform, outside the US, because the moment you abstract your system of record layer and start seeing how you handle transaction, how do you handle accounts, how do you handle positions, how do you take it real time, and then coordinate with every other platform using API and super smooth integration. That's what the market wants. And that's being validated across every region that we are talking to in this part of the world. And I think the sign up and quick start of these programs is going to be the validation to the market, which we know is coming very quickly.
It's actually not too surprising to me that it's a part of the world where, as you said, the strategies are very advanced. Perhaps because in the States, banking, if you look at it just historically, it was very branch centric, not just for tier one institutions, but also for community institutions. Whereas I'm not certain that the same thing happened in other parts of the world, for instance, Asia Pacific, and it might be the case that just the necessity to be digital and have that, whether it's for payments, whether it's for banking, accelerated what's happening there relative even to the US. But that is really exciting. You, I believe, just came because I know Finxact had a number of folks at Money 2020 Asia and joining our Fiserv colleagues there. Anything you want to share about that? What was the vibe? Any takeaways?
I think Money 2020 is in Asia is a fairly large event which has a significant representation from most of the new age tech firms, fintechs, and banks which are looking at transforming themselves into new business models. As you know, you've attended quite a few of them back in the States and Europe. So you know the kind of vibe and culture that this brings about. Money 2020 this year, we had great representation. Some of the validation was that the number of real-time payments that have been active in this part of the world is significant, as you could see. I mean, of course, India, we have IMPS, which is really high. In Japan, we have Zengin. So we have quite a lot of these which are happening as we speak. Pretty much in every market, HoFiNet in South Korea, IBPS in China. And so the whole market is moving towards real-time payment adoption. And incidentally, when Money 2020 happened in Thailand, where we have PromptPay, which is also a real-time payment. So all these real-time payments are being driven by the regulators, the governments, to kind of increase the economics of those respective countries. And for that to happen, the biggest choke point, as you know, are the ability for the underlying accounts to be able to respond to small value, high volume payments to be able to update the balances, which is a big choke point. So they have different ways in which different markets are adopting to it because the core systems are still patch based, end of day. They're not able to update at that volume and scale these markets are doing today. So that's a big interaction that we had pretty much with banks, payment firms from markets like Japan, Singapore, Thailand, everybody talking to us about how do we leverage a platform like Finxact for real-time payments. And it was a no-brainer. The second aspect around payment itself is the whole aspect of digital wallets, which are coming in for different needs, which are very well connected to the whole aspect of embedded finance. People are building or creating digital wallets for specific needs for their transport, for e-commerce, for mobility, and various other aspects. So the convenience of creating a digital wallet and having it updated in real time is again a need which the core system have to support. And that's again a great fit for us. The third thing that we're seeing is that, the data that I have is as of end of 2022, of the close to 500 neobanks and challenger banks, that recently, Rene talked about new bank, there are about 20 of them have gone profitable. And of those 20, 11 of them are in Asia Pacific, interestingly. So that's again a great sign. The whole market, given the number of mobile devices, the penetration of internet, the financial inclusion that's happening, all these are driving adoption of banking and financial service needs at scale beyond financial institution, across embedded finance, across neobanking, across other ways in which people are accessing financial services. And it's a great time for a platform like Finxact to be there, to be able to kind of provide the required scale and support for this kind of growth, which is happening as we speak.
Thank you for that. It certainly is. Rene, this question for you, it's sort of how to come at this. Finxact really just about since its inception, if not its inception shortly thereafter, we began to realize what we were building, and we almost stopped using the word core quite so liberally, if you will, because it's serving different purposes in different segments. So we do have a situation here in the United States where the incumbent financial institutions are almost every one of them running very old infrastructure, and they are going about the process of modernizing that. We also have corporate brands that come to Finxact, and they're not trying to run, a commercial bank. They have, sometimes it's an existing customer base. They have this repeat spend, this loyalty. They have a really nice digital customer experience, but they see an opportunity to deepen that relationship by embedding discreetly. As I said, not trying to offer everything that a commercial bank might, but embedding financial services in a contextual way that's helpful, that improves their lives. And so, as I said, these are not companies that are shopping necessarily for core systems. They're very interested in a flexible, responsive system of record, which is a term that we often use. But it's really opening and expanding the total addressable market for Fiserv, because it's not just about dealing account processing for financial institutions. It's the entire embedded finance world. So my question is, are there similar dynamics in Latin America that you're noticing?
No, definitely, Chris. Very similar dynamics. Probably the timing is a little bit different, but everything that you just described is happening as well in Latin America. You have from those large banks, large financial institutions needing to modernize their cores and looking for ways to do it. Obviously, embarked already in their own modernization strategies because everybody's doing something like creating a more flexible integration layer, etc. So some of those banks are also looking to either launch a new digital presence, a term that is used in the industry, like a sidecar, right? And creating that sidecar definitely requires probably a different technology component, right? And Finxact can play definitely there. But as you describe it, right, there's other competitors in the markets. I'm talking about not only digital banks and specialized fintechs, but also other type of players that we probably didn't see in the past, really trying to play more in the financial services market. I believe that everybody would agree that we have seen retailers moving to private brands, launching their own cards, creating closed loops, and then probably even opening more for credit cards. But nowadays, what we see, it's also retailers looking to play more in other spaces of the financial industry, right? And the payments element and some of the components that Sathish just mentioned, right? The movements around instant payments and financial inclusion are creating different dynamics in countries like Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, the largest economies in the region. But this is not only happening in those big countries. I mean, I can tell you about different countries in our region that obviously are smaller than the big 4 or 5, but they're looking exactly to address things like financial inclusion in a similar way as the other countries, right? And learning the lessons about obviously finding a way to put instant payments available for everyone, and then obviously leveraging digital channels, and why not selling new financial products, creating new digital journeys and attracting different market segments that probably they didn't address in the past. So all of what we see happening in the US and in some of the markets in Europe are definitely happening in Latin America as well.
Yeah, I mentioned a few of the segments, if you want to talk about these in sort of those broad categories, but in incumbent FIs, as I said, you have the corporate brands. In fact, to your point, we have probably the largest corporate brand in the world, who is doing just exactly what you described and moving into the lending space by offering, as I said, point of sale lending at a moment in time that's right. And so that's really exciting. But also, you might even consider these PayFac or payment facilitators, another segment into themselves. And they find the Finxact very interesting because it is a very advanced system of record, allowing for multi-position, multi-currency. And that's very helpful to them, executing and serving their own customers. Really interesting stuff. And then you were at Fiserv's LATAM. Is that correct?
Yeah, Sir Forum Latam.
Thank you. The forum, it was held just recently, but that was fun to help just support you guys.
Definitely. Thank you very much for your participation and your support. What happened is that for the first time since the integration of Fiserv and First Data back in 2019, we had, We already had some, remote or virtual type of events with our clients, but this is the first time that we invited them to be all together in a location. We have more than 140 guests from clients, partners, and of course some Fiserv people. But definitely it was very, very exciting to hear examples of what is happening in the different geographies in the region, how they're leveraging some of the solutions and services that Fiserv can offer throughout the region, and how they are really succeeding in putting together those services in their respective markets. And definitely something that really caught my attention was, how things that we're mentioning even today. Even examples that this is using for Asia Pac are happening in the region, and everybody in a different way, probably with some nuances here and there, but everybody's talking about the same and is sharing information with what is happening in Brazil with Pix, for example, for instant payments, how the QR code in Argentina is really accelerating the dramatic reduction in usage of cash and really moving to digital payments, and how other countries are really analyzing those examples and finding ways to adopt those models. And there were other elements, obviously, that were shared during the event that were of the interest of the audience. Themes, fundamentals about cybersecurity, protection, and of course, how to leverage customer insights and artificial intelligence. Why not? Those are the themes that are really, really of the interest of all the clients, partners in the Latin American region.
Well, and I know one topic of discussion at Fiserv Forum LATAM, which it's not quite in the public domain, so can't mention the name, but it's a very interesting, dynamic unto itself, in that Finxact is helping established LATAM banks bring digital banks and launch digital banks in the US. So it's going both ways.
Right, absolutely. That's a great topic to share with the audience, Chris. There's successful banks in Latin America that obviously are following where some of the citizens are moving. And there's a lot of Latin American people that has been moving, and people and business that had been moving also to the US. And what we're seeing is some of those already successful banks in either Brazil, Colombia, Mexico are looking to really set presence in the US and offer services. And the way to do it, if you're going to compete against the already established US banks, is leveraging a platform, a solution, a service like Finxact that will definitely help them accelerate the time to market. Because obviously what we can offer is already integrated with the US ecosystem of solutions and services, and they can start competing very, very fast.
Well, I want to take this opportunity to ask you, and it's even a question that you could answer succinctly if you like, but I guess I would say Finxact had a strong supposition theory, if you will, that what was happening in the United States in terms of, and this still baffles me, but when you start to peel it back a bit, not so much. Look at the top 100 US financial institutions, almost every one of them, for most of their business, they are still running a very old core system. And our working theory, largely because our founder, Frank Sanchez, wrote the system that was implemented in much of EMEA and many parts of the world, former Hungary, Czech republics, numerous places. And it's still there running. So we know that there are instances of the same happening, same circumstance that we're working through in the States, going on elsewhere, because those clients that are still running Profile are calling in back and asking, when is Finxact going to be able to help our geography? So my question is, same thing happening in Latin America? Is this a global phenomenon? And specifically think about the incumbent FIs, not the other segments we mentioned for a moment.
No, definitely, Chris. It's happening with the large banks most of them using either homegrown systems or in some instances, they're using commercial systems running in mainframes. And I'm not talking about one system. Sometimes they have several cores, probably a core for deposits and another for loans, etc. And some of those big banks are definitely, fighting and struggling with those modernization strategies. It's not a trivial task because they have all their surrounding systems integrated with the core. So replacing or modernizing those is definitely a difficult task to accomplish. And that's where we also see opportunities for a next generation core like Finxact to really help those prospects and customers that are looking for those type of solutions now.
Well, it's validating and it's encouraging to hear that from someone just with your tenure and relationships in Latin America over the last many years. Back over to India, Sathish. Open banking, big, expansive topic, but I suppose my question is just, if you could frame it one way, it's there. It seems there's a lot more applicants and financial institutions that are getting charters for digital banks in that part of the world than they are here. And is open banking helping that or accelerating that, or how is it helping those companies?
Yeah, so Chris, definitely, I think if you look at it, there are various factors which are influencing not only the new digital charters that are happening, but also what's happening in the market dynamics is clearly higher capital costs, higher interest rates. Getting people deposits are much, much difficult these days. Cost management is becoming increasingly challenging for banks. So the traditional incumbents are trying to kind of move from a product to a platform construct, which is where they're trying to see what is the core offering, what are the non-core offering, how much of the value that the customer is looking at is that we can build up. And for you to do something of that nature, with the digital and the neobanks have started building up completely bottom up, they're able to offer those services that the customers are looking at with very less friction, create a user experience, and on proposition that the customers are really looking for, which is contextual, personalized, at a competitive price and the convenience of accessing those. So the incumbents are definitely trying to kind of leverage that. And the best catalyst for this has been open banking, right? Though it started off the back of PSD2 in 2014-15, it's kind of paved the way starting off in Europe. It's kind of paved the way into pretty much most part of the markets. And open banking has also evolved today. It has moved from open banking to open finance to open economy. Open banking was purely accounts and transactions, which got the AISP and PISP, and then account aggregators trying to give a consolidated view for your relationship across. But with open finance, you suddenly started seeing your salary data, pension data, tax data, and then the associated use cases that were starting to be coming out of it. And third aspect is the whole open economy, which is looking at data from your social media, IoT, various other data information that are coming up, which are kind of helping build much more life experience kind of a scenario which the customers are looking for. So the whole open banking has evolved, which is created great opportunity. And the solutions like what we bring today with Finxact, which kind of sits between a bank which is trying to move away from the traditional product offering to looking at new revenue models, new ways of monetizing, and trying to build, so-called the co-opetition with the fintechs and other players where they can bring kind of value-added offering that can go beyond the core offering of what the bank offers today to the end consumers and start showing better value to the consumers, for which they need to start opening up their services, which is what the banking as a service is what they're looking at. And the fintechs are trying to introduce more financial services in their journeys so that the customers can stay put in their application, stay put in their apps or whatever way in which they're transacting, be it e-commerce, mobility. So give them everything within the journey so that they can complete without much of a friction. So banks have two ways of monetizing today: partnering with fintechs where they can offer their financial services, bring partnering offering like be it like insurance, foreign exchange, and so many other stuff that the customers are looking for, and kind of bundle them and package them with their core offering to get better value. And these are clear drivers, and where we are at Finxact, we help banks and fintechs to move towards platform. Fintechs have built their tech stack from a platform mode from the day one, So all the super apps that you see in this part of the world have kind of mastered it. They pretty much kind of retain the customers who come into the app for everything that they look for. Banks are trying to do the same to increase stickiness, get more lifetime value, and Finxact, like an offering, is well poised to meet both sides of the spectrum.
Thank you. Well, Rene, let's go out on a question with you. And this ties a little bit back to just some of my opening comments about, thanks to the breadth and the depth of Fiserv across the globe, a lot of exciting opportunities are opening up for Finxact. And it makes me think about, and it's also a little amusing, but 4 or 5 years ago, myself, Ryan Victor, who heads up sales for Finxact, we were really, asking Frank at every opportunity, well, when are we going to go to this country or that country? And when are we going global? And he was like, okay, kids, you cannot underestimate what this entails. It's not just about having, really good modern technology. So my question is like the entire sort of topic of localization. Take us out with just like how is Fiserv, whether it's language, whether it's consumer behavior in a particular geo, whatever it is. How do you see Fiserv's just experience helping this be successful for our clients?
No, definitely. As I mentioned at the beginning, we have a presence already in 13 countries of Latin America. And although we don't have core banking in every single country of the region, we know and we understand how to operate in those specific markets. Yes, you need to definitely be able to manage language, multi-currency, real time, etc. But we have experience really creating those market entries, if you want to call it that way, to operate and really serve clients in most of the countries in the region. And at the same time, we have very good relationships with system integrators and with local players that are really looking to help us build a solution that can really operate in these markets. And in some cases, also what we are noticing is that some of the big banks have already resolved some of the specific regulation needs that are necessary to operate in the market. And what they are looking is, as you mentioned, right, a system of record that can really help generate those new products and services that they want to offer to the market. So one way to do it is really to start with a client/partner to really operate with the system as it is, obviously making the necessary customizations to start working in such country. But at the same time, obviously defining the roadmap to really localize and customize the solution for the specific market needs. So there's different ways to really build this onion, but we have the experience, we have the presence, we have the partnerships, and I believe that eventually we're going to be really spreading out throughout the region.
Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Thanks for dropping in, Rene. Thanks for dropping in, Sathish. You guys are tremendous assets, tremendous leaders for Fiserv and Finxact. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Chris, for having us. Rene, nice to meet you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Sathish. Have a good one.